Hi everyone, this is Fran from the 5 Minute Modeler. I'll bet a lot of you got some money over the holiday season and it's burning a hole in your pocket. You want to get out into the hobby shop and buy that new locomotive or that car that you didn't get or a building kit. But for you newer modelers, I've got some ideas for you that might really help you in the long run as you go down your modeling career. I'm going to show you some of these items, and then for those more experienced modelers, if you would put into the comment section what you find some of the must-have tools that you've used on your layout, that would be great and help others out as well. So let's get started. Okay, the first item that I think every modeler needs to have is one of these. And this is an X-Acto knife or a hobby knife, whatever you want to call them. X-Acto is the name brand, and they come in, this is the most common size, and then you find things like this, which has like a chisel tip on it, and there's other variations of that. But these are the two that I use the most. And in fact, this one actually came in a kit that I got several years ago, and it was nice. It had the two knives and actually had a little saw blade in there as well, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. While you're at it, I would strongly recommend you get some replacement blades. The X-Acto knife blades, they do go dull pretty quick when you're building, and depending on what your surface you're cutting on. And so you always want to have some extras on hand, because cutting with a dull knife is a good way to cut your hand, and nobody wants that. I've spilled plenty of blood on my layout, and I'm just telling you from my experience, having a sharp knife keeps you from making that mistake. Okay, another must-have tool in my mind is a scale rule. And this is one that I've had for a while. There's several different kinds out there. I bought this on Amazon some time ago. And what this does is it gives you scale footage for your particular gauge. So in my case, I model an N scale, and it gives me the N scale measurements, and this is 5, 10 feet, 15 feet, so forth. And when I'm building things and laying things out, it helps to know what these are, what the scale footage is. And this one also has an HO scale, and if I flip it over, it's got an O scale. So these are pretty handy to have. I would strongly recommend that you have one of these in your toolbox. And it's a nice straight edge too. This one's made out of metal. There's others made out of plastic and so forth, but this one has a lot of extra little equivalents and so forth and other measurements on here. So I'd recommend getting one of these. They're not that expensive. I think they're only about $5 or $6, something like that. Another tool that's really handy to have is, and I got these from a friend of mine, gave them to me for a Christmas present one time. But these are just small screwdrivers, miniature screwdrivers. And the things we work on in model railroading are small, and sometimes you need these screwdrivers. These aren't too expensive either. You can get these for just a few dollars on Amazon or whatnot. And it's good to have the different sizes, because you never know when you're going to come into a screw that you need to unscrew that's pretty small. They also make Phillips head versions. These are all flat heads, but the Phillips heads are helpful as well. Another really handy thing to have on hand is these things here, and these are just simply files, and you can buy a set of files, and they have all different types and sizes of files. You've got a rounded head file. This one is completely round. There's a triangular shape. There's your typical flat, file in there as well. But overall, it's good to have these on hand. You never know when you're going to be filing a rail joint or something like that, or part of a model, just to make sure that it's fitting where it should be. And great to have on hand, and you don't want to use your X-Acto knife to do that. You easily cut yourself, like I said. Speaking of rail, oftentimes if you do like what I did, and I made my model railroad using FlexTrack, and there's a time with FlexTrack where you have to cut it. And in my older days, younger days, whatever we want to look at it, I used something like this to cut the rail. This is a razor saw is what they call it, and these are handy to have when you go to cut the rail to make it fit to switches and stuff, and especially for FlexTrack, where the rails, as you curve them, one becomes longer than the other, and you need to even them up, like for example at a switch or something like that. So I've used this quite a bit. These are handy for cutting other things like brass tubing and things like that. These aren't very expensive either. I think around $10 or $12, maybe 15, if you get a couple of blades. But these are handy to have on hand for, especially for the rail, because you want to take your time and cut your rail, you know, to make sure that it fits and there's no big gaps and that type of thing. So these are real handy. Another tool that you can use to cut your rail, and this is I think these are around $15 as well, but this is a rail nipper, and the company is called Xuron, Xuron, I believe, and you can use this to cut your rail. It's very simple to do, and these are very, very sharp, and they make a very clean cut for rail. They're made for cutting rail. So you often find these at the hobby shop, where you can find different variations of them, but you can also find them online as well. I find this to be a really helpful tool when cutting rail. You can also use a Dremel tool, but that's a lot more expensive, and these things really do the job. You don't want to use them for cutting other things. Just keep them for cutting your rail, but it's a really good thing. If you're using some of the Cato-Track and stuff that's pre-sized, then you're probably not going to need this, but otherwise you might want to have some of these on hand. The last item that I have, and this is kind of cool, if you're into modeling, building models and painting and so forth, this little device right here is a paint mixer, and this one is made by the Badger company, and it's really nice for mixing paint. You know, if you're doing, say, acrylic paints and you're mixing them up and you're adding a little thinner to it and you want to make sure everything gets mixed up, this is like a kind of like your mixer in your kitchen or something, but just turn it on, and this little thing up here mixes the paint. You just put it in the jar and or whatever it is you're mixing in, and then turn it on, and it does a great job of mixing paint. And that's always important when you're painting, especially if you're going to do any kind of airbrushing. So those are my top picks of tools for you to spend some of that money on that you're waiting to spend, and they don't cost much, and a little money goes a long way with these tools. So hopefully you find this of help. And again, it's mostly for beginner modelers who may not know, you know, things that they need. But if you are one of the more advanced modelers, please put into the comment section your thoughts on what are the tools that you need and use most regularly. So thanks again for watching another episode of the 5 Minute Modeler, and we'll catch you on another one. Have a great holiday.